He joined the Army Air Corps to get into the fight, and he did. Jack Henderson Powell was born June 21st, 1933, near Sylvester, Georgia. His parents, Alexander and Judy, were sharecroppers. Jack had two older brothers, Walter and Hugh, two older sisters, Hattie Mae and Rosalind, and one younger sister, Judy. Together, they worked a small farm in Sumner, Georgia.
All of them actually ended up going to school, going to college. A lot of discipline, a lot of love.
Jack, as a child, was a member of Future Farmers of America. His parents couldn't afford the gentle livestock other kids were raising and showing, but he was given for free a Brahma bull calf, a breed known for being quite temperamental. He raised that calf to 1,300 pounds and took it to a competition.
But he walked him in there and just as docile as he could be and cleared the entire arena out, and ended up winning the contest.
While in high school, a family friend had taken him for a ride in a Piper J3 Cub. Jack loved it, but knew that learning to fly was something the family couldn't consider or afford. Jack attended Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College for 2 years, where he met his future wife, Catherine Bird. The nation was then again at war.
Seemingly, the war had reached a turning point as the fresh troops started an encircling move of the North Koreans. Under an air cover that hammered incessantly at North Korean supply lines and industrial centers. History may well record that air power spelled the difference between victory and defeat in the opening phases of the struggle.
In anticipation of being drafted, Jack enlisted in the Army Air Corps Officer Training School. It was a chance to fly. After pilot training in a J3 Cub and then a T-33 jet trainer, Jack went on to the big stuff, airlift, tanker trek, and fighter bomber training. Jack and Catherine married in December 1956. Soon after being commissioned, Jack received orders to Korea. There he flew and commanded the KC-97 Stratotanker and the B-47, a long-range strategic bomber. Then Vietnam. His son Doug was 4 years old.
When he left to go to Vietnam, that broke my heart. He volunteered to fly some of the very first surveyors and architects over into South Vietnam to start setting up the bases. He joined the Air Force to go fight, and that's what he, by God, wanted to do.
Captain Powell extended his Vietnam tour to command a crew of 6 on Buff, a nickname, an acronym for the Strategic Air Command B-52 bomber. Jack, his crew, and aircraft were an integral part of Operation Arclight, which in 1965 began regular bombing sorties on enemy targets across South Vietnam, into Cambodia, Laos, and North Vietnam.
What I saw in his paperwork was about 320 B-52 combat missions, and he had several hundred with the tankers, KC-135s. He came back, and that's when he got saved, because he says, I like the guy killed over there.
Jack returned stateside and became an aide to General Davis. General Davis loved to fly anything he could get his hands on. So with Major Powell, General Davis arranged to get an F-4 instructor rating for himself and an F-105 instructor rating for Major Powell, so the general could fly both aircraft. As timing is everything, to Jack's surprise,
that next week, the Air Force came out and said all current qualified F-105 pilots should go into Vietnam Monday. And he said, no, well, I'm an aide to General Davis. He said, are you current qualified? He said, yep, you're going to Vietnam Monday. He survived it, did his missions, and came home and went back to SAC.
Jack and Catherine had always wanted children of their own, but that wasn't in the cards for them. So they chose to adopt Doug at birth in 1962, and Shay from birth as well in 1966.
We were definitely a military family, and there was a lot of love and a lot of care.
When Jack returned from Vietnam, he was promoted to lieutenant colonel and was assigned to the Pentagon. During this time, he acquired his master's degree in business administration from the University of Nebraska and followed that by attending the Air War College in Montgomery, Alabama. He then received the rank of full colonel. Colonel Jack Powell became Director of Operations for the 19th Bomber Wing, and then was offered command of the 89th Air Wing with the opportunity to fly Air Force One. But that's when Catherine put her foot down.
My mom said, have a good time in Washington by yourself. I'm not going back. So, came back and settled in Albany.
Colonel Powell retired to South Georgia after 23 years in the Air Force. He moved more into the role of parenting, helped Catherine open, start, and run a bakery business. Jack teamed up with the University of Georgia to establish and teach business development at numerous Georgia locations. And Jack took over management of Gray's Transportation and FBO at the Southwest Regional Airport in Albany, Georgia.
And I think he really did it to teach me to fly.
He increased the revenue flow at Gray's tenfold. He also secured a UPS facility at the airport, creating dozens of new jobs. Jack returned home to South Georgia and became Worth County's administrator. He saw to the paving of more roads than any of his predecessors. Jack Powell had a distinguished life in the military, with entrepreneurial efforts, with civic, and with family life. Jack has had the pleasure of walking his daughter Shay down the aisle and seen and enjoyed both Doug and Shay raise their wonderful children. Catherine Powell passed away in 2018, and Jack has since acquired Parkinson's. Doug Powell moved in with his dad and bought a Piper J3 Cub reminiscent of his dad's early flying days. Doug could then fly his dad around their town and the farm acreage they had long loved and owned. Jack Powell, the Colonel, passed away in January 2023, but his love for his family and friends and his desire to be the one fighting for everyone else lives on as his legacy. The Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame proudly inducts this April 29th, 2023, Colonel Jack Henderson Powell.